Wars do good for nobody, as they leave behind scars and unimaginable pain. Take the siege of Leningrad with an estimated 5.5 million casualties, or D-Day, where the Allies faced around 10,250 casualties in a success marked by great sacrifice. These are well-documented battles, but what about the bloodiest conflicts that didn't make the history books? Join us as we uncover the forgotten battles of American history, revealing those intense, overlooked moments that deserve their place in the annals of history. Battle of Cantigny, 1918. Imagine the early dawn of May 28, 1918, in the trenches of northern France. 4,000 American soldiers gripped their rifles. The Battle of Cantigny was the first major American offensive of World War I and a daunting mission for the American Expeditionary Forces. Led by Major General Robert Lee Bullard, the 28th Infantry Regiment of the 1st Division, known as the Big Red One, launched a meticulously planned assault with a rolling artillery barrage designed to neutralize formidable German defenses and supported by tanks and machine gun units. The fighting was fierce and unrelenting. Despite facing well-entrenched and battle-hardened German soldiers, the Americans pressed forward, capturing the village after intense close-quarters combat. They then had to hold Cantigny against multiple, determined German counterattacks. This hard-fought victory achieved by 4,000 American soldiers was a pivotal moment, marking the beginning of America's significant and impactful role in World War I. Battle of Attu, 1943. May 11, 1943, this peaceful island was the site of a fierce battle. Here, 11,000 American soldiers faced Japanese troops and the brutal elements of this mysterious landscape. This mission would test their endurance and resilience in ways they'd never imagined. Major General Albert E. Brown thought it would take only 3 days to reclaim the island from Japanese occupation, but it takes 3 long weeks to complete the task. Now you can imagine facing entrenched Japanese soldiers. The American troops had to deal with a determined enemy and harsh freezing conditions. They navigated treacherous terrain and blinding snowstorms, all while carrying heavy equipment. The Japanese had fortified Attu with hidden bunkers and sniper positions. The initial assault met fierce resistance, leading to brutal close-quarters combat. Despite these challenges, the Americans persevered, pushing the Japanese back. In the end, Japanese launched a final desperate banzai charge, but it was repelled. By May 30, 1943, the island was secured, though at a high cost, nearly 4,000 American casualties. The Japanese forces were nearly annihilated, with only a handful of prisoners taken. The Battle of Cheopyeong-ni, 1951. The Battle of Cheopyeong-ni was a pivotal moment in the Korean War. Just like the Battle of Attu, the freezing cold, with snow covering the ground, the defenders faced waves of Chinese attacks. The battle turned into a series of intense close-quarters engagements, with both sides fighting fiercely for control of the village and the surrounding hills. Despite being outnumbered and low on supplies, the American and French troops held their ground. They used every available resource, from artillery and airstrikes to hand-to-hand combat, to repel the relentless Chinese assaults. The situation was dire, but the determination and courage of the defenders never wavered. By February 15, 1951, the battle was over. The defenders had held the Cheopyeong-ni, inflicting heavy casualties on the Chinese forces. This hard-fought victory demonstrated the resolve and fighting spirit of the United Nations forces and marked a significant turning point in the Korean War. Next, we move from the snowy battlefields of Korea to the humid jungles of Vietnam, where another intense and often overlooked battle took place. Battle of Hamburger Hill, 1969. The fight for Hill 937, which we'll call Hamburger Hill because who wouldn't love a good metaphor, began on May 10, 1969. The U.S. Army decided to storm this heavily fortified hill in the A Shau Valley. Imagine climbing a steep, muddy hill while getting pelted with enemy fire. That's basically what American troops faced as they charged up this jungle-covered fortress, trying to take it from North Vietnamese forces who weren't exactly in the mood for sharing. The battle was like a never-ending game of who can survive the most pain, with fierce close-quarters combat, endless artillery barrages, and heavy losses on both sides. Hamburger Hill became the ultimate test of endurance. By May 20th, the hill was finally captured, but at a high cost. Over 400 American casualties and a whole lot of controversy about whether the hill was worth the bloodshed. So what's next in our series of unbelievable historical events? Stick around as we explore the invasion of Grenada, 1983. Ever wondered what happened when a beautiful island paradise turned into a high-stakes battlefield? Invasion of Grenada was an operation so tense, even the palm trees were sweating. On October 25, 1980, they launched Operation Urgent Fury, which sounds like a name for a really intense workout, but was actually a military mission. The aim? To kick out the Marxist government of Prime Minister Maurice Bishop and restore order, or at least a less chaotic beach party. American forces, including Army Rangers and Marines, parachuted in and went full Rambo on the island. They faced off against a much smaller force of Grenadian soldiers and Cuban advisors who probably weren't expecting their vacation to include heavy combat. The battle had everything: intense urban skirmishes, jungle warfare, and an unexpected dose of tropical heat. In less than 2 weeks, the U.S. had the island back under control, proving that when it comes to military operations, they don't do anything by halves, even if it means turning a paradise into a war zone. The Battle of Khafji, 1991. January 29, 1991, Khafji, a quiet Saudi Arabian town, had its peaceful vibes completely upended when Iraqi forces decided to crash the party with a surprise attack. Imagine the scene. One moment it's a sleepy desert town, and the next, it's transformed into a full-on combat zone with tanks, jeeps, and more action than a Hollywood blockbuster. The coalition forces, US, Saudi, and their allies, responded like they were auditioning for an action movie. Tanks rolled through the streets, planes streaked through the sky, and soldiers fought tooth and nail in a battle that could have made for some seriously intense reality TV. After a few days of intense fighting, the coalition kicked the Iraqis out of Khafji and restored order. It was a dramatic introduction to the Gulf War, showing that even the quietest places can turn into epic battlefields when the stakes are high. The Battle of Tora Bora, 2001. Imagine a rugged mountain range where every crag and crevice comes from a hiding spot in a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek. The Battle of Tora Bora wasn't just a chase, it was a high-altitude showdown. December 2001, the Tora Bora Mountains in Afghanistan. Beautiful but treacherous, like the ultimate hide-and-seek playground. This was the stage for one of the most intense battles in the hunt for Osama bin Laden. After the fall of the Taliban, U.S. and allied forces zeroed in on these mountainous caves, hoping to catch the elusive al-Qaeda leader. Think of it as a giant game of cat and mouse, but instead of mice, these were heavily armed fighters, and instead of a cat, they were a coalition of troops determined to end the chase. The battle was a grueling mix of fierce combat and rugged terrain, with soldiers battling not just the enemy, but the unforgiving landscape itself. Despite the intense effort, bin Laden and many of his followers managed to slip through the mountain passes, leaving the coalition with a bitter taste of near success. The Battle of Tora Bora was a dramatic and difficult chapter in the fight against terrorism. Let's dive deep into untold fascinating stories from American war history. Imagine you're a toddler, totally stressed out during an exam. Your friend slides you a piece of paper, but it's completely blank. Just as you're about to panic, you hold the paper up to sunlight and bam, the answers magically appear before your eyes. Pretty amazing, right? Same tactics were used by American Army during the dark days of Revolutionary War. They mixed ferrous sulfate with water to make invisible ink. This ink was used to write secret information, such as information on troops' positions, supply lines, and information on the spy network, commonly known as the Culper Ring. The invisible ink was America's secret weapon, which played a crucial role to ignite the flames of freedom. Just imagine the look on those British soldiers' faces when they realized they'd been tricked by nothing more than invisible ink.
Tell me how you cheated.
With that in mind, let's see what comes next on our list. Benjamin Franklin's fake newspaper. In today's world, misinformation is everywhere.
Democrats are falling for fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
And fake news and human behavior often go hand in hand. Many well-known newspapers and TV channels are accused of spreading false information and propaganda. This is a big issue now, but did you know that back in the Revolutionary War, fake news actually helped America? Benjamin Franklin's fake news articles played a huge role in shaping public opinion. He printed sensational stories, like the supposed massive slaughter of settlers on the frontier of New York, which fueled hatred among the British. He also published exaggerated tales of revolutionary heroes, boosting morale and support for the cause. Franklin's fake news undermined the British credibility and helped pave the way for America's fight for freedom. Pretty clever, right? let's move to the next one. Christmas Truce. December 25th, 1914, a freezing night on the World War I battlefield. The air was tense and everyone was on edge when suddenly from the enemy trenches a hand appeared holding a military cap. Naturally, one of our guys took aim thinking, a sneaky trick. But hold on, turns out it wasn't a trap.
Er ist nicht bewaffnet! Nein, Otto!
It was a Christmas Eve truce. Imagine the scene. Soldiers from both sides popping out of their trenches like gophers, looking around awkwardly. Hey there, Merry Christmas. Before you know it, they're exchanging gifts like it's some bizarre, impromptu holiday party. They sang carols, some on key, most not. They swapped snacks, probably the only time in history when wartime rations felt like a Christmas feast. Picture this. Hardened soldiers playing games together in no man's land, laughing and joking like they were at a family reunion. They even swapped stories about their families, probably exaggerated a bit to impress each other. And their rifles? Those were left back in the trenches, taking a much-needed holiday break. For one night, the battlefield transformed into the strangest Christmas party ever. And just like that, humanity scored a big win. Now that we've had our laugh at history's most unexpected holiday gathering, let's move on to our next story. Homing pigeons. On October 2nd, 1918, during World War I, around 550 U.S. soldiers from the 77th Division were trapped behind a hill, surrounded by German forces. For 2 days, they faced heavy artillery fire and were running low on supplies. Their communication with the base camp was lost, and the camp mistakenly thought they were a lost battalion. By October 4th, the situation worsened when American forces started targeting them, thinking them as enemies. The trapped soldiers' only hope was their carrier pigeons. Yes, you heard it right, pigeons! The soldiers sent out messages asking to stop the shelling. As German bullets flew, the pigeons were being shot down, leaving only one, named Cher Ami. Cher Ami bravely flew through the chaos with a message, "We are along the parallel 2764. Our artillery is dropping a barrage on us. For heaven's sake, please stop it." Her message led to the soldiers being located and saved 194 lives. Cher Ami was injured by a German bullet, losing an eye and a leg, but was fitted with a wooden leg by U.S. doctors and awarded the Croix de Guerre for her bravery. Although she didn't survive long after, her preserved body can still be seen at the Smithsonian Museum as the symbol of bravery and courage against all odds. And just like that, we're on to the next adventure. Hold on tight. Ghost Army. Picture yourself in 1944 as a German general, eyes glued to the English Channel, ready for a massive invasion. But what do you actually see? 600 inflatable tanks and trucks. Yes, 600 rubber decoys designed to look like a huge Allied force. It's like you're expecting a roaring lion to leap out at you, but instead, turns out to be a rubber stuffed toy.
But that M4 tank, that was the beauty. That was a piece of work.
Alright, so your eyes are fooled, but what if your ears are too? Suddenly you hear the clamor of troops and the rumble of tanks from 30 sound trucks blasting fake noises. And then get this, your radio picks up chatter about dinner menus and laundry instead of battle plans. Seriously? Is this an invasion or a cooking show? Officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, this top-secret World War II unit was made up of around 1,100 soldiers who were masters of deception. They used inflatable tanks, sound effects, and fake radio transmissions to mislead and confuse the enemy, turning creative deception into a powerful weapon. Although, let's wrap this one up and dive headfirst into the next story. The Loudspeaker Wars. Imagine this. You're peacefully tucked in bedtime, dreaming sweet dreams, when suddenly your neighbor decides it's the perfect time to blast their favorite TV show or crank up the loudest music imaginable. Your serene sleep is shattered, and you might find yourself cursing your neighbor or questioning your choice of living next to them. But here's a twist. This kind of annoying noise wasn't just for irritating neighbors. It was actually used as a war tactic. Yes, you heard that right. Picture this. After World War II, as Germany was divided into East and West and the Cold War began, both the Americans and the Soviets decided to turn noise into a weapon. In 1948, they set up massive loudspeakers along the Berlin Wall and in other strategic spots. Instead of music to calm the nerves, they blasted propaganda, music, and sheer noise to drive each other's soldiers and civilians absolutely nuts. Talk about taking getting on someone's nerves to a whole new level. Okay, that's enough of that story. Let's move on before we get too comfy. Operation Popeye. And here's a wild one for you. The US Army decided to use Mother Nature herself as a weapon to mess with the enemy supply lines. Imagine heavy rain not just as a weather inconvenience, but as a strategic move. During the Vietnam War in 1967, the US Army was dealing with tricky traps set by the Vietnamese. So they cooked up a secret plan known as Operation Popeye. What's Operation Popeye, you ask? Well, the US Air Force decided to play weatherman with a twist. They launched a covert cloud seeding mission using lead iodide and silver iodide to turn clouds into rain machines. This operation, developed in California at Naval Air Weapons Station China Lake, was all about extending the monsoon season. Why? To turn the ground into a soggy mess and bog down the movement of troops and supplies along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, heading into South Vietnam and the North Vietnamese military bases. So while the US Army might not have had control over the weather, they sure found a way to make it work for them. And that's a wrap on War Chronicles episode. If you enjoyed these hidden gems of history, comment down below your favorite one. Subscribe and hit the bell for more incredible stories.